Clemson minus 12.5. Never heard of her. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome into a YouTube exclusive. As we are recording this, we got about 2 minutes left in the Duke versus Clemson game. I'm seeing 28-7, and that is not Clemson on top. That is the Duke Blue Devils stomping all over the Clemson Tigers. As you guys are watching this, I'm sure you guys have had all the overreactions pumped straight into your social media feed. A couple things that I want to say right off the top, and then I'll kind of turn it over to you guys. The rush attack for Duke, that Clemson had no answer for it, right? It was a little back and forth early on. There were some definite miscues early. Felt like Riley Leonard struggled to get in a little bit of a groove in the passing game, but man, when it came to the ground game, they figured it out. Riley Leonard had that long scamper for a touchdown. A couple more guys ended up scoring. Jordan Waters, Jaquez Moore, just awesome job all the way around in the rush game. And man, Clemson could not figure it out on the offensive side of the football. I knew going into this game, I picked them outright. I knew that going into this game that it was going to be an issue breaking in a new offense. And Trey, you kind of made the comment that maybe offense isn't the way we should describe what happened for Clemson tonight.
I wouldn't call it offense. I would call it offensive, but I wouldn't call it offense.
That is very true. I'd maybe go with that too. But yeah, Cade Klubnik, rough night for the kid. 27 for 42, 209 yards passing as of right now. Again, this could change. Just getting 27 to 43 through an incompletion as ESPN updates here with a touchdown, interception, couple of fumbles in the red zone to really kill some drives and just give Duke all the momentum. You can't make that many mistakes against a good quality team. Fellas, I just want to kind of get rapid reactions here. Let's overreact to this. Is Clemson dead in the water? Is Duke winning the national championship? What's going on tonight?
First of all, I love that they're already pouring onto the field. There's a minute 45 left in this game, and they are already just pouring out of the stands and at the stadium there, Duke. That's fantastic. Mitch, go ahead.
Tom Luganville is gonna get stampeded here in a minute.
He needs to move.
He's like, what's the guy from Game of Thrones who just stands against the horde? Like, that's Tom Luganville right now on the sideline. Very Texas Tech, Texas-esque from 2008 when, they've taken over the sideline, guys.
There's one security guard that is trying her darndest right now, and the other ones are just,
we lost contain in Wallace Wade Stadium. This is incredible. Listen, Trey, I don't know what you have to say. Garrett hit this on the head, and I think what stuns me the most is Riley Leonard didn't need to be perfect through the air, just 175 yards through the air, but 98 yards on the ground, a 44-yard touchdown scamper. And Clemson looked lost. We all owe DJ Uiagalelei a heartfelt apology. Dr. Pepper should take him back mid-campaign as an apology. What kind of back payments do we owe this kid? This is amazing.
Yeah, I expected this to be a fun, close game. I definitely expected, Duke to be competitive. I did not expect the utter domination that Duke and look, if this was going to happen, if you were going to tell me that Duke was going to win this game by 3 touchdowns, like you said, Mitch, I would expect Riley Leonard throwing for 350 yards, running for another 100, and cementing himself as a Heisman candidate. Duke did not play their best football tonight. Duke was far, far from their best football tonight. And, the graphics coming up right now, it's the first win against an AP top 10 opponent in the last 29 matchups. And first time since the 1990s, it looks like, according to ESPN. So
1989 against
1989. Clemson. There we go. The year of Taylor Swift. So I am just amazed by Duke's performance tonight. I'm amazed by the defensive effort. We knew that Mike Elko was going to have a fantastic game plan. That's kind of what I highlighted looking into this matchup is you've given Mike Elko a whole offseason to prepare for this, and he made Clemson look foolish the entire night. It was not a good night for Cade Klubnik. We've kind of highlighted the stats. I don't want to beat a dead horse there, but you got to be worried if you're a Clemson Tiger fan. This is not how the season was supposed to open. This is not how the Cade Klubnik era was supposed to get started in earnest.
Right. Well, and the big thing that I have to look at here is Duke, Elko flat out outcoached Dabo Swinney. He flat out outcoached him tonight, and not even just in the X's and O's, but in the intensity and the way that they brought, their guys off the edge, the way that they played on defense. I think I texted that to y'all. I love the intensity they were bringing all night. They had the guy that got ejected for targeting, and I almost didn't care. I was like, you know what? We don't want to do irresponsible things on the football field, but that's just effort. That was just him trying to fly to the ball, and he ended up getting him when he was sliding. And that's tough when you lower your shoulder and you get in there and a kid slides. So it is what it is sometimes, but you bring that kind of intensity on the football field. They brought that kind of intensity in the run game. So many broken tackles, running through guys, spinning away, just fighting for those extra yards. It just looked like they were the better team tonight, and that's what I thought was the case going into the season. But guys, I kind of say, where do we go from here? We're looking. Obviously, it's week 1, which means it's time to overreact. But I've still got Duke on their way to the ACC championship game. I think you have to acknowledge that's probably at least one of the 2 contenders on their way there. But if for Clemson, I mean, what do you do from this point? The offense was pretty anemic. You're not going to face a Duke defense every week, but the offense was pretty garbage outside of the run game with Will Shipley, who, by the way, Will Shipley, shout him out. 17 carries, 114 yards. Very good day for him. But outside of Will Shipley, there wasn't a whole lot going on. Spread the ball around okay in the receiving game, but their top receivers got 56 yards. It wasn't a whole lot going for Clemson. Where do we go from here? What's the overreaction, right? Where do we go for Clemson Tigers? And what are we looking forward to for the Duke Blue Devils?
Well,
go ahead, Trey.
You're really concerned if you're a Clemson fan because it wasn't supposed to be this way. You hired Garrett Riley to fix the problems. You allowed DJU to transfer and walk out the door so you could have Kate Klubnik take over so that you could fix all the problems that you've had the last few years. And it looked worse than it did before. It looked discombobulated. Will Shipley was still the only offensive thing that they had going. And look, Cade Klubnik is still a young kid. This was his third or maybe even second start and third full game of action. So he's going to make mistakes. He still has a huge learning curve, and that was just a recipe for disaster going into a hostile environment, a really popping road environment. And he just wasn't ready for the moment. And that doesn't mean he never will be, but you're kind of back to square one if you're Clemson. And it's really concerning. You got Florida State coming to town in a couple weeks. You still got games on the schedule against Notre Dame, against North Carolina, against South Carolina, who beat you last year. So 7-5 right now is really on the table if you're Clemson, if you can't get things fixed really quickly. And that just seems unthinkable.
Guys, does Dabo survive if they go 7-5?
I think he'll survive. I couldn't see a world where they fired Dabo Swinney.
I will say, yes, he would survive, but this puts the Clemson era, I think, on life support if they go something like 7-5, 8-4. I mean, right now, things are not going great. Things are pretty scary at the moment if you're Clemson, I think, because you're looking at this. You weren't able to beat Duke on the road. Yeah, it was a tough game, but it wasn't competitive. It kind of seemed close, and Duke kind of pulled away late, but they were just the better team if you were watching that game. They were more physical. They beat you in spots. They were a more sound defense. They played better assignments. They knew what they needed to do. Riley Leonard knew what to do with the football. Besides the fact that he wasn't really able to get into a rhythm, he was making good decisions. He wasn't forcing passes. If you're Clemson, you're looking at this saying, we just got whooped, and this is not nearly as talented a roster. They were the more talented roster, Clemson. So you got to look at this and say, yeah, if you're looking at Florida State, there's no reason to think you're going to beat them after what they just did to LSU. If you're looking at Notre Dame started the season pretty good. So you're looking, I think, right now at 9-3 as an optimistic season. At that point, I think you put the Clemson era on life support and you say they got to bounce back in a big way the next year. Otherwise, teams have their stretches, teams have their runs, but that might be it for Clemson.
Clemson is 5th in the 247 talent composite. I'm still having to scroll to find Duke is 66th if you're looking at just raw talent on paper.
That's not great.
Quite the separation there.
I don't want to overreact and say the sky is falling for Clemson, but 2 glaring issues. One, you didn't have anybody separate in the passing game tonight. Antonio Williams is your leading receiver, 7 for 56, no scores. The other thing is the red zone was atrocious for the Tigers tonight. 5 times tonight they entered the 25-yard line of the Duke Blue Devils, they came away with 7 total points. You fumbled it twice down inside the red zone. You had 2 abysmal kick attempts from a true freshman, including a shank from the 7-yard line. And then Cade Klubnik throws an interception. He also slid too early on a 4th down play where he did have the first down and then just didn't realize where the marker was and went down too early. So it's a total cavalcade of errors for Clemson, right? This was like the doomsday scenario. If everything went wrong, this is what the final score looks like. I don't anticipate that happening, but for folks that were saying, "Oh, well, the Clemson offense is going to be fixed," we've got Garrett Riley coming over. Cade Klubnik is going to take the next evolution. Like Clemson's going to be business as usual. And hand up on this, by the way. Like I expected Clemson to go to the ACC championship game. I do have Florida State winning that, but I picked them to be there in that game. Now we don't even know if they're going to get to 9-10 wins on the season, right? And we went down that schedule a second ago. They play Charleston Southern and FAU, but then it's versus Florida State at Syracuse, what could be an offensively plucky Syracuse team, versus Miami a couple of weeks, or at Miami, I should say, at NC State, versus Notre Dame. And then you end the year with North Carolina and South Carolina. Like, it's not going to get any easier this year in a schedule that is going to challenge you to score points almost every single week. The defense wasn't terrible. They didn't get some stops that they absolutely needed, but Duke also played really sloppy, and Clemson took the ball away from them a couple times. But at the very end of the day, this is going to be a year that if Clemson cannot score points, you're going to see a wonky number in their results column, something that we haven't seen in a number of years.
Yeah, and that's I think where we have to kind of sit and think, because what would it look like if this is what we have for Clemson? So many people wrote them into the playoff. I know we weren't necessarily there, but so many people wrote them into the playoff. It's kind of just a foregone conclusion that that's Clemson. That's what they do, right? That Clemson makes the playoff every other year. Clemson's there. They're always going to compete. But, maybe we're looking at this new era of, the ACC and the new conferences and everything else. And maybe Clemson's taken too much of a step back at the wrong time. I mean, again, this isn't a overreact time, but again, they've got to fix it quick. There's not a whole lot of time. 3 weeks till they play Florida State, or they're looking at 2-2 leaving the month of September. And that's probably not something Clemson fans want to think about. Guys, before I take my victory lap, any final thoughts on this one?
Nah, I think we've hit it pretty hard. I mean, talking about the team that won for just a little bit, the sky's the limit for Duke now. I think they've got a little bit of a ramp up before they play Notre Dame. That's kind of their next big one. They've got Lafayette, Northwestern, and at UConn.
Don't sleep on UConn.
Listen, UConn could be plucky, definitely. But I think they'll handle business until that Notre Dame game. It should be a really fun one on September 30th back there in Durham. And then after that, they've got the path is there. They've already slayed the Giants, so to speak, in week 1. The path is there to get all the way to Charlotte. And who knows what could happen after that.
Garrett, you mentioned Duke looked fiery playing tonight. They were very physical. They were ready for the challenge. Mike Elko's a defensive genius. He brings over Tyler Santucci, the linebacker coach from Texas A&M. This was his first game as a defensive coordinator, and he called a brilliant game from up in the press box. So, Duke looked like the better team. When we get to the end of the year, that may very well be the case. Mike Elko just told Tom Luganville, this scene as the field is being stormed is what I imagined Duke could be when I took the job. Mike Elko has turned around a struggling Duke program very, very quickly. Boy, you are being naive, though, if you don't think that the phone calls are going to line up if he continues to rebuild Duke into an actual conference contender. I don't know if he's going to, stay at Duke if he gets those chances or not. It seems like he could really build a legacy with the Blue Devils, but boy, Mike Elko is a star in the making. We've known that he's been a defensive genius for a number of years now. We were wondering what that next step as a head coach would look like. Boy, he has burst onto the scene, and it's really fun to watch.
Yeah. Let's look forward to, obviously, for Duke. But obviously, I knew it. I called it. We knew this. But the question is, you, the viewer, did you know it? Comment down below. Let us know. What did you think of this one? Did you have Duke winning? how shocked are you that they won? And what do you think can happen for the rest of the season? Go ahead and comment that down below. And go ahead, give us a like, subscribe to the channel. We'll keep talking about Duke throughout the year. We got plenty of reasons to. And so, yeah, just look out for that while we are going forward into the season. Other than that, guys, it's been a fantastic week 1 of football. Wrapping that up for Mitch Mason and Trey Reeves, I'm Garrett Turney. We're signing off. See you guys next week.
Gracious, how about